They will actually work as witnesses for you even as I sit here today and tell you that they have never seen action the likes of which they are now seeing and they are personally experiencing. So do not be discouraged if you run up against somebody who appears to be wasting your time. Don't let them waste your time. Walk away. I know that's hard for some people. I've seen some people almost come to tears because of their concern. The patriots that I deal with and I have seen, and I have seen millions, are not wild-eyed and crazy people. They are compassionate, they are heartful people, and they are hurt when they can see that possibly their family or their relatives will be hurt by the impending actions that they can see on the horizon. Well, while you may be concerned, you may actually be distraught, the only thing that I can say is each person has to choose their path also. And God's writings are still the best thing to turn to. One of the questions I had asked that I responded to in a letter is to turn to the 91st Psalms. No matter how these other parties that are with us fall, no matter how many fall, victory is assured for us. The other side trembles at that thought, and that, my friends, that is why you're going to see conflict. As our enemy with the wickedness that is within them, if you look for all the sweet words, as Orwell said, hate is love, war is peace. Well, that is exactly what we are experiencing right now, and the enemy is trembling at the thought that this sleeping giant known as America is rustling and moving. In fact, we've made our first great giant steps, pardon the pun. It is because of this success that chances are at the state level, the county level, or even at the township level, we're going to see physical contact take place. A sheriff or a mayor or a governor is going to decide that he's on the wrong side, or is going to decide that he's going to exert his powers, his legal powers, and the New World Order, the Fed, and the United Nations are going to violate them. It is at that point of time that there will truly be a test of the Patriot movement. Already we've had an exciting action which was successful, though of course we only skimmed by the skin of our teeth, as we would say, in Whitehorse, Ohio. A mayor called upon the militia. The action that was originally ordered by the Fed and state agencies was canceled. Why? Because men and women decided to step forward and say, if need be, I will come. If need be, we will support you. Now, do I know the mayor of Whitehouse, Ohio? No, I do not. In fact, I may have only spoken to the woman in a general meeting briefly for only an hour or two. But it was that contact that made the difference and turned that one key person at the right place at the right time. And that's the same mission that all of you have. I guess the challenge is what we've said so many times in the past. As we are just one gray line of Americans passing the flag on one to the other, it's now your turn. And the challenge is for you to carry the flag properly. Do you know even where it is? Can you find it in that dusty corner over in the back of the government courthouse? The right flag, the unadorned flag, the one that represents our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Well, I know where it is, and I've seen in the hearts of so many Americans that there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to win. Now, I want to try and do as little damage as possible if we can help it and bring as many people through this as we can properly. Does that mean that we are not going to see casualties? Ladies and gentlemen, be realistic. All you need to do is turn to the many books, for instance, as we have in this room right here, and look at the history of this nation and the history of man to understand the depredations of that which has always been around, the New World Order and tyranny. With that in mind, we are going to be forced, and it won't be, well, I shouldn't say forced per se, but we are going to have to. It isn't that hard because I am willing to stand up. I don't have to be coerced to do this. I am more than willing to stand up against tyranny. There are many millions of others like me who are just as capable. And again, we're not wild-eyed, we're not crazy, but we have a good, firm grasp of history, and we have a good understanding, having looked at all the tapes and all the information and all of the plethora of data that we can access from around the world on exactly what the New World Order means. Now, in a way, this is supposed to be kind of an epilogue. It's not the end, but it is the end of a phase that we've been a part of, a living part of American history. It's not the end of the resistance or the Patriot movement. It's not the end of the era per se, but it is going to be the end of this particular level of engagement. The other side is sharpening its claws. The fangs are being drawn back. Many different weapons are being arrayed now against the American people because, again, consider this. Our success demonstrates that as we lift more rocks, there are fewer rocks for the New World Order to hide under. There are fewer masks left intact, and as each one comes off, the other side will be angered by the fact that we know who they are, we understand completely what they're about, and we could demonstrate it to the world. So a word of warning to all of you that we must act now. Oh, there are many other tools, by the way, and one of them that I would recommend, and if you'd like to find out more information, well, you can contact the source of this tape. There are so many, I'm sure, by the time it's out. Patriot Radio has become one of the key sources for the moment for on-time delivery of data that's in place. And I recommend that, again, you seek out information on how to become your own Patriot broadcaster. That's right, you can be just like Mark, John, Bill, Frank, Kelly, and a half 100 other Patriots right now who are in the limelight, and you can put your future on the line, perhaps, but also put your mark on posterity. You can demonstrate to your children what it means to be involved, to be interactive with this nation. I'm fascinated that some people would say they have too much to lose. Well, I think we have a great deal to lose if we let these people win. In fact, I think we'll lose it all. In fact, I would say and go one step farther. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're stupid enough, if you're foolish enough, if you are ignorant enough to let this Constitution and Bill of Rights we have that have been given to us by the Founding Fathers as inspired through God, then most assuredly your children have every right for the rest of their lives, once in bondage, to curse your name for the rest of their lives. And they rightfully should do so. In fact, I can imagine that a good portion of the planet will be doing just that, because ignore all the fluff and garbage you're seeing on the controlled media. I've seen thousands of letters. I've talked to millions of people, and many of them from across other parts of the world. And ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell you, they're turning and looking at you. You didn't even want this responsibility, I'm sure. Many people would prefer to be off in la-la land, we're waiting for, well, the time clock to run out so that they can get to their retirement, so that they can pass on and let somebody else deal with this. Well, I hate to tell you, reality is here and now. It isn't in a computer, it isn't on a video game, it isn't someplace else in a little box where you just simply are very myopic, where you put the eye shields on and ignore the rest of reality. It is here, today, now. The exciting thing is, well, it's like the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Yeah, well, I think that we are. And with all of the diverse situations that can develop, we will most assuredly be living in an interesting future. By the way, when we win, here's another problem for all of you who agree that we will. What are you going to do when you win? Do you have a good understanding of the kind of government that you're fighting for? As I said at the very beginning of this tape, nature abhors a vacuum. And one of my biggest concerns is if we are not well versed and prepared to demonstrate this limited republic, then most assuredly something else will attempt to step in. At the end of the American Revolution, remember, there were Tories in place in our government, people who were already conniving on ways to bring us back to the King of England. We have no intentions, and I will tell you this personally, directly into your face, no matter who you are, that we have no intentions of throwing somebody out of the king's seat and putting a new king in place. We already have a good form of government, and we aren't going to change it. We're simply going to make sure it's being properly employed. That doesn't mean we throw down the Constitution and Bill of Rights. That means we must emulate them. That means we must put them in their proper place of honor. And no single person is the monarch or the tyrant, depending upon your choice of titles, but rather that we have no king but God himself, and that is our beacon, our guide, well, our footpath. That is what we will follow. And that path is very narrow, by the way. Remember that in your victory, well, people have a tendency to get a little carried away. And I do challenge you to this also. When we win, ladies and gentlemen, if we're not careful, in less than one generation, we could lose everything we have gained. Do you really want to see that? The only way that we can ensure that this mistake is not made, well, right away, the Founding Fathers would tell you that what you're seeing right now is the very nature of man. To make sure that that doesn't happen, we must make sure that we also have a firm record of history. We want to make sure that we document what it is that's taking place right now. I've seen some books, and I've actually got a few of them sitting here, that were virtually taken off the internet and are fabrications and fantasy, pure and simple. But they're the books that, if you're not careful, are going to be the reference for the future. Already I have seen this with the controlled media and press assignments that they've been given that you have not seen, that are waiting in the wings, so that if the other side does win, just as Orwell said, they will take everything else that you've been a part of and throw it into the black memory hole. And what they will replace it with will be whatever they find on that keyboard sitting in front of them. So the challenge today and the challenge now is for you to become that